What was he doing here? The last time, the stone had fought him for possession of his own soul.
Trust the raven further than you could throw her. Vertical drop down.
The ravens were already here, cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late.
Hey! I got this friend who's a swan. Will you join up? He dyes his feathers.
When I build my castle, thought Bernardo, all my gates are going to open with buttons, and all the levers will drop rocks at your head. The ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. There was an engraving. Maximum capacity, 130 people. It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made. It was the stone, eager, thirsty. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once, and he had a sneaking suspicion the gem would try to control him. Why not capture the core of Sky Ripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. "What's the core?" said the stone anxiously. "Take me to
But even though Renato knew how evil the gem was, he had a clever plan for dealing with it. The gem could give great power, but it was evil. But Renato had a plan. He would divide the stone into the power half and the evil half. He sought out the sage Calaveras.
Oh, you need a mirror of splitting,
Croaked Calaveras.
I can make one.
Calaveras set up various shiny things. And soon Renato was setting the stone down in the middle of Calaveras' lab. There was a flash, and now Renato was looking at himself. Except with a mustache, and a goatee and darker hair. There were two Iblis stones. One light and one dark. Renato took the light one. He felt a rush of great power. Now I could defeat the Emperor. Wait a minute. Unfortunately, he couldn't think of any way to use it without hurting someone. That wouldn't be nice. Give me that, said his evil-looking twin. And he drew his sword. He only got it halfway out of the scabbard when he fainted from the effort. Obviously, neither weak, evil Renato nor powerful, nice Renato was any threat to the Empire. After the Emperor's victory, they were exhibited in a museum until time ended, which was soon after. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it. Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away. Were all these things the Iblis stone? Long hidden in the buried temple, another ancient item that was only resurfacing now, drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals? Ravens were already here, cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late. Already Renato knew more than he ever had. But about what? So that's what they meant by a firewall. What unlocks a firewall? There had to be some way to use the Iblis stone. It was old, wasn't it? People are so much cleverer now. and Renato was pretty sure he was cleverer than most people.
My pig, you!
The ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. It was a bit windy up here.
It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made blood. It was the stone, eager, thirsty. Kill the Emperor's daughter. Now you, Emperor. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once.
And he had a sneaking suspicion the gem would try to control him.
Why not capture the core of Sky Ripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the Transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. It's the core, said the stone anxiously.
But even though Renato knew how evil the gem was, he had a clever plan for dealing with it.
Why was he listening?
As he placed the impossibly black crystal in his gauntlet, Renato had a sudden vision. Charred fields covered in dead ravens below a black sun.
Was it the time of the lost gods before the Transcendent Emperor? Was it the future? Feed souls, it whispered. Take the power. He could feel the stone's hunger for souls, its thirst for blood. All right, I get it. This was going to be interesting. On Zenobia's island were no match for Renato. They screamed as the stones sucked out their souls. And with each death, he felt stronger. Take the power, the stone told him.
He couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he? Zenobia was waiting for Renato.
Precision, ferocity. If the voice was a woman, buy the drink.
Finally, Renato caught up to her. He had never seen her scared before. At school, she'd been the determined, brave one. "Please, no," said Zenobia. "Not that way." Oh, they had been so close once. Could he really feed her soul to his demonic gem? But if he spared her, he would not get the full power of the stone. Oh, how could he be the hero he wanted to be? Renato hesitated. Renato felt a little sick. Ever since Zenobia had taken the stone from him, he'd felt an ache that wouldn't go away. He missed it. He wanted it back. He needed it back. Why hadn't he killed her when he had the chance? She was the enemy. He hadn't even seen her in 14 years. Why had he hesitated? You're a sucker for an empowered woman. Renato kicked himself. Don't make that mistake again. These platforms were great. Renato wanted one for his house. Zenobia thought the stone was evil. Was it? Well, yes, but he still longed to have it back. He'd felt so good killing ravens with it, and yet he'd felt unclean ever since he'd touched it. She confused him. She'd made him want to be a better fox, and then she'd abandoned him, never telling him she was the Emperor's daughter, never contacting him since. Well, who was she to tell him the stone was evil? immune to the laws of gravity. The scientists' toes were pointing arcane instruments at the stone and looking at it through prisms and reflections.
Mine!
Then, a far-speaker toad croaked in something like Zenobia's voice.
Bernardo, leave the stone with the toads. It will swallow your soul. You'll kill everyone you love.
That did seem vaguely familiar. But Reynardo had an army to lead, an empire to bring down. Ah, the ruins. Reynardo had come there as a kid when it was still the fabulous city of Ubar, before the Emperor's ravens had come to pillage ancient books from its library and destroyed it. Now the rebel council lay hidden underneath the ruins. And between here and there, all these ravens to kill. They deserved it for what they'd done to the city. And the faster he could kill them, the more of a rush they gave him.
Fresh meat!
And let it do all the killing for him. But he tried to be nice to Zenobia, not killing her and all. And what did she do? She stole the gem from him and made him kill all those scientists. Next time she'd see. You couldn't hack this kind of firewall. You had to warm it up to you. Whispered the stone. Ravens? Reynardo knew how the stone felt. Each raven he killed gave him a little jolt of pleasure. But he could only kill them so fast, and the pleasure wore off too quickly. Hopefully soon he would face a more powerful adversary. Yes, whispered the stone.
But not with a bunch of mangy ravens.
Say goodnight, Gracie, said Renato, wondering who Gracie was.
Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
Don't go away. As he reached the secret entrance, he was shocked to see Zenobia talking with the council. She bore a white flag. "The council has betrayed you," whispered the stone. "Kill them." "What are you doing here, love?" Renato demanded. "Come for the brown muffins?"
She's worried about you.
croaked the council speaker.
We all are.
"You're not yourself," Zenobia said. Before they could get into the rest of the intervention, he leapt at her. Unfortunately, the council speaker blocked him, so he slew her and the other council members. "I'm not giving up," cried Zenobia as she darted off into the ruins. "I think I just killed the entire rebel council," said Renato.
See how much power they've given you.
"But they were on my side, weren't they?"
No one is on your side. Except for me.
He set sail for the fleet. There, at least, there would be enemies to kill. Unless that was the Iblastone talking. He could never be sure. Anyway, who needed other rebels here? They'd only get in the way. A true hero fights alone after he's got all his friends killed. It was time for a little exploration. The world was so beautiful. Everything was glowing, breathing, alive. Except, okay, the ravens he'd killed. The wind was alive, and a million fingers caressing his hair. He'd never felt so powerful. He'd never felt so sexy. Somewhere down the path, Renato would slay him, most powerful man in Erda. And the Iblastone would give Renato all that power, and he would be emperor. Then he would set everyone free.
At last, he was face to face with Zenobia. She was still unarmed. No fire crackled from her claws.
Excellent. Kill her,
Whispered the stone. He raised his sword for the killing blow.
Is this what you really want?
She asked. Or is it what the stone wants?
Think of the power.
Insisted the stone. I don't want to kill you, he told Zenobia, his arm still raised. I know. But he could not put the sword down. It wants blood, he told her. I know. Oh, help me, he said. She stabbed herself. Take my blood, she said.
No, you mustn't,
cried the Iblis stone. Oh no! Why did you... He ran to embrace her, and she plunged her bloody dagger into his heart. Why? He said. We'll be together in the halls of the valiant, she said. I love you, he said. Thank you. And the Iblis stone screamed, and then it began to glow. It burst into flames. It burned like an ember. And then it was ash that blew away in the wind. And Zenobia and Renato died in each other's arms. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lupino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lupino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away. For all these things, the Iblis stone, long hidden in a buried temple, another ancient item that was only resurfacing now, drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals. Color looks good on you. ravens were already here, cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late. Weapon he'd ever used. Or not used. See? With enough leverage, you could go anywhere. The ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. This wasn't actually such a hard puzzle, come to think of it.
It was a stone of the blackness. It reflected no light, like a void. It was the stone, eager, thirsty. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once.
And he had a sneaking suspicion the gem would try to control him.
Why not capture the core of Skyripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. "What's the core?" said the stone anxiously.
But even though Renato knew how evil the gem was, he had a clever plan for dealing with it. The stone... The moment he landed the Farfarer, Renato had a rare feeling of regret. It's not too late, he thought. He could turn around and sail for Zenobia's island. He frowned. Wait a minute. He didn't want to kill Zenobia, did he? Sure, technically she was the enemy, but they'd been at Sword Fu school together. They'd never been lovers, but somehow they'd been closer. She'd told him every secret about herself, except the biggest one, that she was the Emperor's daughter. No, kill Zenobia, whispered the stone, before it's too late.
any better dead, Renato thought.
You almost never saw wild gogglers together like this. The toads had to train them not to peck each other to death. So these had to be imperial gogglers.
The stone hadn't lied about what it could do for him. With each raven he cut down, he felt a jolt of power flowing into his arm. "You're weak," whispered the stone. "The call will kill you." "Are you afraid of it?" "No, don't be ridiculous," it chuckled. But it's unstable. It will poison you so much as carry it, and if you try to use it, it will explode catastrophically. Renato did not trust rocks that talked in his head. He went onwards.
Oh, look! Fracking.
As he approached the core, the stone became hysterical. He had defeated the demonic gem with the power of his mind. He felt invincible. It was time to attack the Imperial outpost on the Nexus. Take the battle to the enemy. But among the huge crystals, there was also an observatory. A wise man would probably ask the scientists exactly what he had first. How wise was he? As the far... See? He'd trusted his gut, and it had worked out. That's what it meant to be a hero. To ignore the naysayers and the odd-makers, and do what you knew was right, and have it turn out to be the right thing. No, he wasn't worried. Once he got to the observatory, the scientist toads could explain it. Then he could carry the war into the enemy's camp and destroy them all. Oh dear, he was getting a little bloodthirsty, wasn't he? Renato had never felt better in his life. Normally, a battle would wear him down and he would need a night's sleep. Now he felt like he could go all night and all day. He felt like people were cheering him on, and he could practically hear their applause as he slew one raven after another.
Imperial fleet was closing in on the rebels, forcing them to come out and fight. Bernardo was itching to bring the fight to the enemy. He had to remind himself not to be too reckless. The toads at the observatory measured the stone with their occult devices. I fed it the core of Sky Ripper, explained Renato.
The stone doesn't actually feed on souls,
Claimed the third.
but on pain of killing another sentient being. If you can truly be at peace with yourself, it would not overload.
Very confusing. To a peaceful and quiet. But he now had the power to turn the tides. He should report to the Rebellion Council and prepare for the decisive battle.
The one thing... Unfortunately, the mountains were not empty. There were ravens everywhere. No matter. He had to fight, yes, but he didn't have to be angry. Parry, dodge, slash, and breathe. Yes, focus on the rhythm, the dance of it, not on the blood or the raven's core as they died. It was working. He wasn't feeling those dark jolts of eldritch energy. He wasn't feeding the Iblis stone. What are you guys dressed up as for Halloween? Just wondering. The stone was still silent. His mind was his own, and his heart, too. He bore them no ill will, these ravens. They were doing their job. They were expressing their nature. Dance, whirl, parry, jab, and breathe. It was all so simple, wasn't it? Something was missing. He didn't feel truly at peace. Wait. Wasn't this near where Calaveras lived? The sage would help him figure it all out.
The Iblis Stone, silenced by the Sky Ripper's core, had given Renato enough power to challenge the Imperial fleet. But what Renato was seeking was inner peace. The rebellion was on the verge of extinction, but it would have to wait.
At the end of the mountain path, he found the wise Calaveras in his workshop. Do you fix souls or only artifacts? He asked the sage. Does your soul need fixing? Asked the sage. I've been killing a lot of ravens lately, he told the sage. You're a fox, said Calaveras. To kill birds is part of your nature. You should take joy in it. I mean, I might as well worry about eating flies.